الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum.
Salam.
I want to take this opportunity to welcome you all to this program and thank you for your attendance. I'll briefly go over the agenda for tonight. We will start the program with the recitation of the Holy Quran. That will be followed by a presentation by Sheikh. And at the end of that session, we will have an opportunity for Q&A. And we'll talk more about Q&A as we get to that. So with that, in the interest of time, I'll please call upon Brother Bakir Bilani to come and recite a few verses of the Holy Quran.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. تبارك الذي جعل في السماء بروجا وجعل فيها سراجا وقمرا منيرا. وهو الذي جعل الليل والنهار خلفة لمن أراد أن يذكر أو أراد شكورا. وعباد الرحمن الذين يمشون على الأرض هونا وإذا خاطبهم الجاهلون قالوا سلاما. والذين يبيتون لربهم سجدا وقياما. والذين يقولون ربنا اصرف عنا عذاب جهنم إن عذابها كان غراما إنها ساءت مستقرا ومقاما. والذين إذا أنفقوا لم يسرفوا ولم يقتروا وكان بين ذلك قواما. والذين لا يدعون مع الله إلها آخر ولا يقتلون النفس التي حرم الله إلا بالحق ولا يزنون. ومن يفعل ذلك يلقى أثاما. يضاعف له العذاب يوم القيامة ويخلد فيه مهانا إلا من تاب وآمن وعمل عملا
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Thank you.
Asad Brother Bakir. I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Sheikh and I will be the moderator for the evening today. So, without taking too much time, let's just get right into it. I'm going to go ahead and introduce Sheikh so he can get started. Before I go to the formal introduction, let me go back 25 years. That's how far I know him. And I know him from the time when I was an amazing soccer player, or at least I was fooling myself with that information. And he was an amazing defender. And I found out that when we play, either I will pass or the ball will pass, based on his information. So, because I couldn't be in his team all the time, I just decided to friend him because I wanted to go in one piece back from after the soccer game. So, I've known him since 25 years. And he studied in Al-Muntazir Islamic Seminary, then he did his diploma in computer programming and accounts. He further pursued his bachelor's in total specializing in Islamic philosophy and theology. Currently, he is pursuing his master's degree at Al-Muqbil University in Homs. Off and on, giving lectures and trying to propagate, Islamic knowledge for the last 11 years. Two of those, in fact, he was right here in Dar es Salaam as the principal of the madrasa out here. So, mashallah, he has a great resume. But let's leave it to that. And with that, Sheikh, I would like to welcome you and give us the words of
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. First of all, I would like to thank you all for attending this lecture. Inshallah, this should be a series of subsequent lectures coming, inshallah, and some open discussions to come in the future. The topic, as announced, is Tawassul types and opinions. I'll be focusing on Shi'i literature. I will not be going in the Sunni literature as time will not permit us. Inshallah, for subsequent discussions, maybe we can go into Sunni literature. Now, before I start getting into the actual discussion, there are 2 points as preamble which I want to share, and then I get into the discussion. The first point which I like to make is this, that because of the situation we are going on at the moment, so I thought it's very necessary to share this, that are we as human beings allowed to label other human beings? Are we allowed to call each other by names? Are we allowed to speak ill of each other as we go through? I would like to share this incident. Allama Hilli, in his book of Rijal, this incident has been narrated by almost all books of Rijal, but I'm quoting it from Allama Hilli. So there are 2 names you need to remember. One is Ahmad bin Khalid bin al-Barqi. Sawa? Ahmad bin Khalid, Ahmad bin Muhammad bin Khalid al-Barqi, and the second one is Ahmad bin Muhammad bin Isa al-Ash'ari. Ahmad bin Muhammad bin Isa was the head of Shi'as in Qum. What he used to do, a very strange thing which happened, this was at the time of the 10th, 11th Imam. It was the 3rd century, 3rd Islamic century. What Ahmad bin Isa would do is that whoever he would disagree with, he would chuck him out of the city of Qum. You must have heard a lot of stories of people who were chucked out of Qum. The school of Qum is very famous of chucking out people out of Qum. So Ahmad bin Isa was the head of it. What happens is Ahmad bin Muhammad bin Khalid al-Barqi, he was one of the Rawis who migrated from Kufa to come to Qum. He was one of the culprits Ahmad bin Isa chucked out. Okay? So when he chucked him out, after a while he realizes that, Baba, I made a mistake. And that's exactly what we are telling people, that you accuse others, maybe you're making a mistake. Okay? So once you make a mistake, you have already spoiled somebody's reputation. So he spoiled his reputation. After a while, he brings him back to Qum. Now the strange part is all the scholars of Rijal consider Al-Barqi thiqa, a trustworthy person, an authentic person. It was only Ahmad bin Isa who was concerned about him. Okay? So when he brings him back, they say that he regretted, he asked for forgiveness. Then as a sign of regret, during his funeral, he went barehead. Okay, in those times people used to wear turbans, yeah? So if you remove the turban, it shows that something is happening. So in his funeral, in Al-Barqi's funeral, Ahmad bin Isa went barehead, barefoot, to show everybody that I've made a mistake in taking this person out of Qum. Okay? So my humble advice to those people who are thinking of speaking ill, think about it before you. This is a good incident. It goes further. This is an interesting incident I read in Imam Khomeini's 40 Hadith. For those of you who have read 40 Hadith, it's a book with mystical experience, mystical flavor, yeah? So in chapter number 28, where Imam Khomeini discusses the concept of liqa'ullah. Now I will not go into what is liqa'ullah, what are the different opinions on liqa'ullah, the meeting with Allah. I will not go into all those different opinions. Suffice to say that I want to just quote this incident. When some scholars couldn't fathom some of the things which the mystics were saying, Imam Khomeini then quotes. If you can see, I've highlighted. He says, we completely close our eyes and ears, stuffing cotton, so that the truth should not enter our ears. This is Imam Khomeini mentioning about some scholars who couldn't fathom what the mystics were talking about. So what those people would do is just close their ears. And then he says that in case they heard him, in case they heard the Arif, look at this statement here. They immediately will make him the target of all kinds of curses and insults, and calling him an apostate. This is very strange. That scholars were calling scholars murtad and apostates and insulting and cursing. Why? Because they couldn't understand what the mystics were saying. Okay? So, then Imam Khomeini goes on to say that it's not because these arifs and these mystics had a problem. It was the self-love which was preventing them from understanding the truth. And this gets more sad also. Very strange. He quotes that people used to write books. You know, we have dedication in the book. We dedicate it to somebody. What people would do is they would write the book. They would say that curse Mullah Faiz Kashani 100 times and then read this book. Very strange. Yeah? Until you don't send la'an on Mullah Faiz Kashani, one of the great scholars we have, who has written the book of Hadith al-Wafi, the Tafsir al-Safi, Tafsir al-Asfa. This scholar was being cursed by the scholar 100 times in the books people used to write. Okay? Imam Khomeini goes on further to say that we call Mullah Sadra a heretic and a zindiq. I hope you are reading you notice here, he's called a zindiq, yeah? So, the message I would like to share, and Imam Khomeini shares this message, is that Imam says, I know that these curses and insults don't harm, they harm the least these scholars. Wallahi, you speak anything against us. Wallahi, doesn't harm us anything. The way Imam Khomeini says, These scholars, when they were spoken against, it doesn't harm them anything. Rather, perhaps it increases their reward in front of God. And wallahi, this is what I'm feeling. That you speak ill against somebody, you're just increasing their reward rather than doing something good which you're trying to do. Okay? Now, Imam Khomeini, being a mystic, then mentions, but these things are injurious for ourselves. The moment we speak ill of people, we're injuring ourselves spiritually. Wallahi, we are doing that by speaking ill of people. And finally, this statement is beautiful. He says, I'm quoting from my Sheikh, Ayatollah Shah Abadi, who was the teacher of Irfan of Imam Khomeini. He says this. This is something very common, but he says that our teacher would tell us that don't curse anybody by name. Never curse anybody by name until and unless Allah or the infallible tells you that you are allowed to curse somebody. If there is no information from Allah or from the infallible, then cursing somebody by name, Ayatollah Shah Abadi says no. Why? Because that person might die a death of a faithful and you have accused him of becoming a faithless. Okay? So this is my humble advice and my humble suggestion to those people who are listening. Notice, it's from Imam Khomeini's 40 hadith. So I go further. Look at the Quran. The Quran is beautiful. قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الْكَافِرُونَ. Allah would have clearly told the Prophet, "Oh Prophet, tell them, Ya ayyuhal kafirun," without qul. What was the difference? Why did the qul come in front there? Why is this say out here? The Prophet would have told Allah would have told the Prophet, say, Ya ayyuhal kafirun, la a'budu ma. One of the reasons the scholars give is that even the Prophet is not allowed to call a kafir a kafir. Very strange. And that is why Allah takes it on Himself. He says, Qul, O Prophet, tell them that we have told you that they are kafir. You are not allowed to tell them they are kafir. It's our prerogative to call them as kafir, okay? So this is point number one. We just thought that those who are listening, inshallah, we can learn from that. Number two, before I get into the discussion, this also gets questioned a lot. That why should we have these discussions publicly? Why not have it in Hausa? Why not inside the closed doors? And why not close it up inside the Hausa? So my answer normally to these people is this, that why did Allah not send the Quran to the Prophet only and tell him, "Oh Prophet, you spread the Quran"? Why make it public book? Quran is a book as much as it's an easy book. وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنِ. It's an easy book, yes. But it's also an academic and a very deep book. If this book is very deep, why did Allah make it public? Why not make it private? Not send it to Hausa only. Allah would have sent the Quran to Hausa and said, "Oh Hausa, teach the people out there." Why make it public? Number two, for those of you who have read Nahj al-Balagha, for those of you who have read sermons of Imam Ali in Nahj al-Balagha, you see how deep they are. Scholars till date are confused with some of the sermons. Imam Ali was talking to the laymen in Kufa. Laymen. Why did Imam Ali not take a private circle and say, "Oh, I should talk to private people and not talk to the public"? So, but okay, Quran and Imam Ali doesn't work. So I like to share this example. Notice, I'm quoting this from, this is an incident about Allama Tabatabai, rahmatullah alayh. Ayatollah Misbah Yazdi, who was one of the students of Allama Tabatabai, quotes it in his book Marzban Wahy wa Khirad, page number 90. In our discussion, as we go further, you will notice that I will be giving references for everything I quote. And that is what I'm requesting everybody. We are ready to discuss. We are ready to sit down, but based on evidences and proofs. Let's not sit down based on hearsay. We sit down with hard evidences. The Quran also says, قُلْ هَاتُوا بُرْهَانَكُمْ إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. Allah doesn't tell the Prophet, dispel the mushrikeen straight away. He tells them, no, sit down with them if they have proofs. Once they don't have proofs, then we are allowed to then tell them that you are liars. But sit down first with them if they are having evidences. And that is why I keep on saying Quran is an evidence-based book. It's not personality-based book. It doesn't praise personalities. It just praises, it speaks about evidences and qualities of, okay? So Ayatollah Misbah quotes an incident about Allama Tabatabai. Why make these discussions public? Allama gives a beautiful answer. We take inspiration from his answer which he gave. Ayatollah Burujadi say, Ayatollah Misbah says, Yek waqti az taraf ba'zi az afrad kutah nazar. I'm reading the Farsi so that those who want to listen then later, there is reference for all this. Okay? Ayatollah Misbah says there were some people who are very narrow-minded. Kutah nazar means those people who are narrow-minded. They complained to Ayatollah Burujadi that why is Allama Tabatabai conducting philosophy sessions in Qom, in public? That was the issue. So letters were written to Ayatollah Burujadi and all that. Notice, he says, Bilakhare in qad fishar awardan. They pressured Ayatollah Burujadi so much that Ayatollah Burujadi had to take a worker of his and send to Allama Tabatabai's house with a message. What was the message? The message of Ayatollah Burujadi to Allama Tabatabai. He tells him that, Allama Tabatabai, I am not against philosophy. Ayatollah Burujadi studied philosophy himself, okay? So he says that I'm not against philosophy. What I'm against is that during our times, when we used to study philosophy, our teacher would choose us and teach us in a private circle. So you had 4, 5 people, 10 people who would study in a private circle. The teacher would choose the students. But you, Allama Tabatabai, are making the classes public for everybody to come. So can you please limit your class and not make it public classes? What should have been Allama's reply? Thank you, yeah? Close it. Allama Tabatabai replies back. He says that when this worker came in, I gave him a reply. I gave him a verbal reply. Then I realized that this verbal reply, this man might not give the message nicely. So he wrote down. He took a paper and a pen and he wrote down. Now look at what he writes. Okay? He says, Man waqti warid Qom shudam. When I entered Qom, this is Allama now speaking. When he was in Najaf, he comes to Qom. Allama Tabatabai says, I came to Najaf, I came to Qom. I studied the system. I studied my community in Qom, and to try and find out what are the requirements our community needs in Qom. Okay? دیدم جامعه اسلامی ما نیاز دارد که اسلام را از منابع اصیل خودش بشناسد. This is a beautiful statement. He says, I realized that Qom requires us to study Islam from its original sources. You get me? From its original sources. So Allama Tabatabai then says that what was the way out? He says the only way out to teach the pure Islamic sciences was to teach philosophy. Sawa? So he starts teaching philosophy to everybody in public. But where is the reply? Why is it public? So Allama Tabatabai writes back to Ayatollah Burujadi in the same letter. He says that, Agha, with due respect, the times, your time, Ayatollah Burujadi, your time, and my times are different. Allama Tabatabai speaking 30 plus years back. This was 30 years back. He's telling him your time and my time is totally different. How so? He says, when you had your times, the confusions and the doubts of atheists and beliefs confusions regarding beliefs were in books. And that is why you people would write answers in books and send it to the author. But notice his answer. He says, Amma imruz shubahat i'tiqadi wal ilhadi naql qahwe khane hast. The doubts are being raised in the coffee shops today. Everything is being spoken in the public today. If everything is in public, why should we go in private then? We have to come out in public and speak issues in public. If they don't listen to us, they'll go on the YouTube and listen to somebody else. Okay? And that is why Allama Tabatabai says that, he goes on to say that Tarbiyat chand nafar dardi ro dawane mikunad. Now if you are asking me, Ayatollah Burujardi, to take few people and teach them, this is not going to sort out the problem. We have to go public. I hope I made myself clear that why have we gone public with these discussions? I take inspiration from Allama Tabatabai's statement, okay? Now, we come to now the discussion. So this was just a preamble. We get into the discussion. Now, before we get into the types of tawassul, I'm sorry I will bore you a bit. Some things are a bit technical, but we need to go with the technicality. Yeah? Inshallah, slowly, as we go through, we will learn how to make notes, slowly, question and make it more of a class where we can converse and discuss. So, before we get into the types of tawassul, few introductory points I would like to make. Number one, this is very important. Is taqleed allowed in usuluddin? In regards to our beliefs, are we allowed to do taqleed or not? Okay? You have to first find out and make your methodology clear here. Whenever we go discuss with anybody issues regarding taqleed, they will tell you what somebody has said it. If somebody has said it, first tell me, are you allowed to do taqleed in usuluddin or are we together, yeah? So, the different opinions, there are almost 4 to 5 opinions here. Inshallah, in my subsequent discussions, I will discuss these differences of opinion. I'm just mentioning 2 opinions today. One is there are few scholars. So for example, Ayatollah Jawadi Amuli at the moment, he's in Qum. He allows taqleed in aqaid, in beliefs. In his tafsir, Tasneem, we will inshallah discuss later inshallah. He says that taqleed in usuluddin and taqleed in beliefs is allowed. If you're taking this path, it's fine. Beautiful. It's your and your answers to God. The only challenge we have with this is that in laws, if you notice in fiqh, we have Tawzi'ul Masail, yeah, the book of laws. But we don't have book of aqaid which we can refer to. Who are the maraja in aqaid? Can you name one? Anybody can name one? Marja in beliefs. There you go. Because we don't have a book which we know that these are maraja in beliefs, thus we will now get a challenge that who should we follow in aqaid. But it's beautiful. If you want to do taqleed in aqaid, it's fine. It's your choice and your answer to Allah on the day of judgment. Okay? So this is first opinion. But the majority opinion, including Ayatollah Sistani's opinion, is no. Notice his statement. It is necessary, it's wajib for a Muslim to believe in the fundamentals of faith with his own insight and understanding. So it's wajib upon me and you, all of us here, to go and find out about religion, the fundamentals of faith with our own understanding. He goes on further to say that he cannot follow anyone. Can you see this? He cannot follow anyone in this respect. You cannot follow, even if it's a scholar, you cannot follow him. You have to do your own research. Because Allah will ask you yourself on the day of judgment that why did you believe in me? And then you say, I followed somebody. So then the question might come is that, why did you follow him? Do you get me? Okay? If you have an answer on the day of judgment, it's beautiful. But if the answers are not there, then we go on. So now, what happens is, so what do we do if we're not doing taqleed, then what should we do? So Imam Ali in Nahjul Balagha, saying number 173, gives a beautiful solution. I love this solution. Man istaqbala wujuh al-ara, the one who accepts different opinions, arifa mawaqi' al-khata. He will know where the mistake is. Have you seen when you are when somebody needs to do a major surgery, you don't go for one opinion, you go for different opinions, yeah? You take different opinions and then take a decision. So you go to one doctor, you go to second doctor, you go to third doctor, and go to fourth doctor. You then combine all these opinions and then come and realize that this doctor is okay, this doctor has made a mistake, this doctor is. That's exactly what Imam Ali is proposing. When it comes to religion, what you need to do is find out different opinions and then make a conclusion as to what is right and what is wrong. So you might tell me, oh, we are all busy, we don't have time to go to Hawza. So the answer is this, that if you can reply that to Allah, beautiful. If Allah accepts that answer from you that, oh, I was busy, I didn't have time to understand my old religion, then God will open the book of A'mal and say, Baba, here you are watching Netflix. I'm not saying, I'm just saying that here you are free. Here you are free, okay? Then what happens? Can you reply back to Allah, okay? So, point number one, we need to make sure that are we doing taqleed in beliefs or not? If you're doing taqleed, so. If you're not doing taqleed, according to Ayatollah Sistani, not allowed, then we have research means you understand different opinions. Yeah, number one. Number two, here gets technical. Please be with me for 2-3 minutes, 5 minutes. This is a very technical point, but it's something which will really help you in going through with your methodology. Can you please recite a salawat, please? Okay. So this is a very important point to go through. Whenever you are researching on any issue of belief, this is a very important point to keep in mind. What we need to do is, we need to distinguish between ghaibi matters and non-ghaibi matters. I hope I'll be able to explain. You distinguish between metaphysical realities and physical realities. You distinguish between material issues and non-material issues. How do you do that? Let me explain further. See, a lot of times we have laws in this material world. We are living in this physical world, yeah? We have laws out here. These laws which we have here, we cannot shift it to the hidden world. We cannot shift these laws to the metaphysical world. Okay, let me give you an example. So in this world, if I want water, what do I do? I tell the person, can you please bring me water? Yeah? I tell the person I can ask for help, he can ask for help, we can ask help from each other. Yeah? We can ask for help from each other when we see each other. The question now comes in, a person leaves this world and goes to the metaphysical world. He goes to the next world. Are we allowed to ask for water from him? I don't know if you're getting me or not. In this world, we are allowed. If I see you, I can ask you for help. But somebody leaves this world and goes to the next world. Are we allowed to ask him or not? I hope I'm making myself clear. Okay? Now, I'm not saying it's shirk. Wallahi, this shirk business is something which I'm out from. What I'm saying only is it allowed or not? For that, you can't say because we believe it here, so that's why that's also allowed. I don't know if you're getting me. Because we can ask each other here, we can ask also the one who has left the world also. Let me give you a better example. I just heard a clip today. We prove Tawassul. We say Allah uses Jibreel to send wahi to the Holy Prophet. So what is he doing? Allah is using a wasila, a means to send wahi to the Prophet. What Allah does is Allah's duty. It's not my duty. I don't know if you're getting me or not. What my duty is, I need to get an instruction from God. God, what do you want me to do? I don't know if I'm making myself clear, okay? So what God does doesn't allow me to do that. Are you getting me? Okay? So, God forbid, if God comes and slaps me, He can do it or not? He can do it. Does it mean you all can come and slap me? Huh? No, because there's no instruction from God for you to do it, okay? So we don't have instruction from God to... Okay, let's just question answer. We'll get into question answers, yeah? Okay, so if that's your conclusion, so we normally would say that you need an instruction from God to say you can do it, okay? So, or if I can go further, if the Prophet does something to somebody, until he doesn't tell me you can do it, you cannot. Are we clear? Okay? Because we have to have an instruction. So what he does doesn't tell me to do it. I need to have a separate evidence for that. Or if I give an easier example, Prophet Musa could turn a stick into a snake. Could Prophet Isa do it? I don't know if you're now getting me. Okay? The reason is we need evidence here. We can't say because both are prophets, so both can do it. No, we need evidence to say that Prophet Isa also could turn a stick into a serpent. The same way with Prophet Muhammad also, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We can't claim that he could turn a stick into a serpent until we have a separate evidence. Every prophet gets his own miracle of the time which is required with him. We can't say because one prophet had it, so the other prophet has to. I don't know if I'm making myself clear, okay? So you don't pass evidences, you say because this happened here, this has to happen here. No, you need separate evidences for all, okay? I hope I've understood, I've been clear on this issue. This is very important in research. Number 3. One of the biggest problems which we go through is because we don't understand terminologies, that is why the confusion happens. So what we need to do is differentiate between these 3 terminologies. There's Tawassul, Istighatha, and Shafa'ah. Sawa? We have Tawassul, Istighatha, and Shafa'ah. Because when we don't distinguish between the 3, we put everything in one boat, and then we realize that, oh, now this guy is denying tawassul. He's denying this. No, it's because we don't understand the distinction, okay? So, I'm quoting Ayatollah Makarim Shirazi from his Tafsir Namuna. Notice, everything has been referenced. You speak, fine, we speak with references, okay? Ayatollah Makarim defines tawassul. Wasila means what? He says literally it means to get closer. Taqarrub. When you get closer to something, it's called tawassul. But actually what it means is that when something is used and becomes a means of getting closer to something else, that's called tawassul. Am I okay? You have this thing. If it wants to get closer to this, okay, it uses this becomes a means to get closer to this, okay? So anything which becomes a means to become closer to something else becomes a wasila and a means, okay? And that's why Ayatollah Makarim says that anything which becomes a means of getting closer to Allah is a wasila. Sawa? I hope the definition is clear, yeah? So this is in his Tafsir Namuna. This is the diagram we need to keep in mind. In Tawassul, Allah is always there. Are we okay with that? In Tawassul, there are 3 components. It's not 2, it's 3. It's Allah, it's the person who is seeking the Tawassul, and the means. I hope I'm clarifying myself, yeah? So when this person is seeking the means of this, he's getting closer to Allah. Okay, so in Tawassul, always Allah is there because there are three components in Tawassul. Okay, different from Istighatha. Allama Tabatabai in his Al-Mizan defines Istighatha. Look at the difference now. Istighatha now is to ask for help straight away and directly from somebody. You see the difference? Now it's not three anymore, it's two components. I ask from help from brother Zuhair. Directly asking help from him is called Istighatha. But if I use him as a mediator, I say, Zuhair, can you please help me through brother Samir? That becomes Tawassul. I don't know if you're getting the difference. Yeah? If he becomes the means to me getting closer to him, that's Tawassul. But if I remove him from the picture, and I'm only using Zuhair as a means to ask him, then I am getting closer through Istighatha. It's Istighatha, it's not Tawassul anymore. I hope it makes it clear, okay? Sawa. Now, my discussion is not about Istighatha, but I would like us to, for future references, for those of you who are willing to do research, and inshallah in our subsequent discussions, we'll discuss about Istighatha also. Whenever you're discussing about Istighatha, that means directly asking from the Prophet, or directly asking from the Imam, or directly asking from a saint. Okay? When you want to say, Ya Ali Madad, are we clear? That's Istighatha. It's not Tawassul, it's Istighatha. Because you are asking directly from Imam Ali. That's not Tawassul. Because Tawassul is, oh Allah, through Imam Ali give me. Do you get me? But Istighatha is no, Ya Ali Madad. Okay? Now, whenever it comes to Istighatha, we need to make sure we keep three issues in mind. This is not my discussion, just pointing you so that for future discussions we are clear on these issues then. The methodology should be clear. The Quran in Surah Fatir makes it very clear. Can you notice verse number 13? Allah says, whoever you call, Allah is giving us a principle. This verse is about mushrikeen, I'm not denying it. But Allah is giving us a principle. Whenever you want to call anybody apart from God, there has to be these three things happening, okay? Can we keep it for, yeah? Can you note down there will be questions. Yeah, there will be questions. Allah is giving this principle that whoever you call besides Allah, he has to have control. Okay? That means he has the power to give. So, if he can't control anything and he doesn't have the power to give anything, then can you call him? So I tell Brother Zuhair, can you please give me a stone of 1 ton? Will he be able to do it? Because he doesn't have the power to carry a 1 ton stone, okay? Next principle Allah gives is this. Can they hear you? When you call them, can they hear you or not? And if they can hear you, can they respond? Sawa. So there are three things you need to prove when it comes to Istighatha. Number one, can the one who you are calling, can he hear you or not? Number one. Number two, if they can hear you, can they respond? Do they have the power to give it to you or not? And number three, this is not there in the verse, but I'm adding it. We need authentic narrations or du'as from the Imams themselves to show us that they use this method of du'a. Are we clear? Okay? So, this is not my discussion, but this is where I'm trying to just tell you for those people who are doing research, okay? Now, we come to the types of tawassul very quickly. How much time do I have? Ya Allah, Allah. Okay, so types of tawassul. Now, we get into the types of tawassul. Sorry. 20-25 minutes? So, inshallah, hopefully. The first type of tawassul, there are 5 There are 4 types of tawassul which I'll be discussing, and the final one, Shafa'ah, I will come and discuss in the end. The first type of tawassul is using the names of Allah as tawassul, as a wasila, as a means. Sawa? This is there in the Quran. وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاءِ الْحُسْنَى فَادْعُوهُ بِهَا. It's a very clear-cut instruction in the Quran. Whenever you want to call Allah, use His beautiful names to call on Him. This is a beautiful, clear-cut instruction in the Quran. Okay? Now, the du'as in the Quran, there are almost 60 to 70 du'as in the Quran. They all use this kind of method. 60 to 70 du'as almost. They all use this methodology. Okay? Now, it's the prophets and the non-prophets, because one of the things we're being told that the prophets don't need to do wasila, but the non-prophets need to do wasila. The Quran will show you that the prophets used this method of calling Allah, and the non-prophets also used the same method to call upon Allah. Let me give you one example of a prophet and then one example from this example. I like it. This dua is a beautiful dua in Surah Maryam. Prophet Zakaria doing this dua. You notice I've highlighted the word Rabbi, and can you see the word Allah's name being used? You will notice that majority of the du'as in the Quran has the word Allah's name, Rabbana, Rabbi, Rabbana, Rabbi, majority of times. Okay? So here, Prophet Zakaria is telling Allah, Walam akum bi du'aika Rabbi shaqiyya. Beautiful, beautiful. Oh Allah, I've never, ever despaired with you. Whenever I call you, you respond. It's impossible that I call you and you don't respond. Walam akun bi du'aika. This conviction needs to be there that this God is listening. This God is loving us, that He wants to listen to us. Okay? So this is Prophet Zakaria. So you say, no, but non-prophets, so Ashab Kahf. Can you see? They have a dua in the Quran. Rabbana atina min ladunka rahma. O Allah, O Rabbana, give us. Okay? Or for example, the verses Brother Baqir recited from Surah Furqan. One of those verses is this. We as believers are being told, Rabbana sarif anna azaba jahannam. You do dua to Allah. This. Are we clear? So you notice the pattern in the Quran. It's all about using Allah's names. Okay? It's not using any other means of wasila except Allah's names. And this is beautifully explained by Imam Ali in Nahj al-Balagha. Beautiful, beautiful. Notice in the end it says, He has not placed anything between you and Him that may veil Him from you. Allah is not veiled from me and you, wallahi. There's no hijab between me and Allah, between you and Allah. Okay? Then Imam goes on says that He has not required you to get a mediator when you want to get to Him. You want to talk to Him, you don't need somebody in between to talk to Him. He's listening all the times. Yeah, this is Imam Ali. This is Imam Sajjad in Dua Abu Hamza Somali. Beautiful. وَأَخْلُ بِهِ مِنْ بِهِ حَيْثُ شِئْتُ لِلسِّرِّ بِغَيْرِ شَفِيعٍ. Oh Allah, yani akhlu comes from khalwa. I secretly converse with God without a mediator. I don't need a mediator to come and be in between me and Allah. This is Dua Abu Hamza Somali. Okay? So, in first type of tawassul, you use Allah's names as a means to get closer to Him. Okay? If you get time, you can go through. Number 2, the second means of wasila is the Quran. So again in Nahj al-Balagha, sermon number 176, if you notice, Imam is talking about the Quran. He says, pray to Allah through the Quran. Sawa. So you pray to Allah through the Quran and turn to Allah through its love. So the second means of wasila is the Quran. Okay? I'm not taking time further. Sermon number 176. The third means of wasila, again Imam Ali in Nahj al-Balagha, sermon number 110. Imam now comes and says, Inna afdala ma tawassala bihi al-mutawassilun. the best form of tawassul is this. And we have kept it aside altogether. What is the best form of tawassul? The best form of tawassul is belief in Allah, belief in the Prophet, jihad, ikhlas, zakat, fasting, hajj and umrah, helping others. Do you see that? The best form of tawassul is asking, no, being good, so that this a'mal, this good deeds becomes a means for me to climb closer to God. Are we clear? Okay? Now, here I would like to go through this. This is a famous verse being quoted all the time. You hear all the time people will quote this verse for tawassul, yeah? وَابْتَغُوا إِلَيْهِ الْوَسِيلَةِ. Yeah? Now, what does this verse want to say? I would like to share two opinions. Okay? I'm bringing it under good deeds because, so I'm quoting, I'll be quoting the classical mufassirin, the classical exegists like Sheikh Tusi and Allama Tabrasi. I'm quoting Allama Tabrasi, the famous commentator, the Shia commentator. One of the best tafsirs we have is Allama Tabrasi's Majma'ul Bayan. Okay? He's in the 6th century. His version and Sheikh Tusi's Tibyan version are very similar. So you can refer to Sheikh Tusi also, you will find similar statements. When it comes to this verse, notice, he comes and says, can you see this? وَابْتَغُوا إِلَيْهِ الْوَسِيلَةِ means what? اطلبوا إليه القرب بالطاعات. Use your good deeds to get closer to. There's no mention of the Prophet, no mention of the Imam. Are we clear? The classical mufassirin used to understand this verse as getting closer using the good actions and good deeds. Okay? So he goes on further to say that waqil al-wasila to afdalu darajat al-jannah. Some say that wasila is the best station in Jannah. Then he quotes this riwayah from the Prophet. He says that the Prophet would tell his companions, please pray for me that I am the one who achieves this wasila in Jannah. This is a riwayah from Majma'ul Bayan. Okay? So the classical mufassirin used to understand this verse by saying that all refers to the good deeds. But the contemporary scholars now, so Ayatollah Makarim Shirazi, for example, in his Tafsir Namuna, he says the meaning of tawassul is broad. So not only includes good deeds, but it also includes the shafa'ah of. So you use the imams and the prophets in your dua, that's also a meaning of tawassul. Do you get the difference now? Huh? I'm sharing different opinions for you to understand. Classical mufassirin used to understand that verse differently. The contemporary scholars are understanding that verse differently. You want to follow that one, you are right. You want to follow this one, you also. Okay? I hope I'm clear, yeah? So good deeds was the third means of wasila. The fourth means of wasila is using the Prophet and the Imams as wasila. And I believe in this. I believe in this totally. What I'm quoting is authentic riwayats from Al-Kafi and Al-Faqih here, okay? So this riwayah is from Al-Kafi. Notice, it's from Al-Kafi, volume 3, page 309. Okay? Sheikh Kulaini quotes this incident in his Al-Kafi. And because the sanad is sahih also, we have to accept it. We have to do tawassul through the Prophet and the Imams. In this hadith, it's Allahumma inni uqaddimu ilayka Muhammadan sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Oh Allah, I turn to you through the Holy Prophet. There's no mention of the Ahlul Bayt here. So the Prophet is becoming a means of getting me closer to Allah. So whenever I want to get closer to Allah, I use the Prophet as the means. This second riwayah in Kafi includes Ahlul Bayt also. So if you notice, وَأَتَوَجَّهُ إِلَيْكَ بِمُحَمَّدٍ وَأَهْلِ بَيْتِهِ. That includes the Mahdi alayhi salam also. Okay? So you can call to Allah using the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam also. Whenever you are turning, but notice, it's talking to Allah through them. I hope we're clear. It's talking to Allah through, notice the words, وَأَتَوَجَّهُ إِلَيْكَ. Oh Allah, I'm turning back to you through them. I hope we are clear. Okay? These all riwayats are authentic. Okay? Again, Al-Kafi, volume 2, page 583. The fourth way of tawassul. Dua Abu Hamza has the same. وَبِ مُحَمَّدٍ وَآلِ. Fourth Imam also uses this. So it's impossible for us not to do tawassul. It's impossible. Our Imams have done it. Why should we not do it? So Imam says, Oh Allah, through Prophet and his Ahlul Bayt, فَاسْتَنْقِذْنِي. Save me. Okay? So these are riwayats we have. Okay? This is the fourth way of doing tawassul. Now, finally, here is where the confusion comes in now. Some people consider this also as tawassul. As I mentioned, if I am talking to Allah through the Holy Prophet and the Imams, that's tawassul. But if I turn to the Prophet or the Imam to tell him to pray for me, that's Shafa'ah, my dear brothers and sisters. Do you get the difference? Okay? We hope we make these distinctions very clear. We mix Istighatha with Shafa'ah with Tawassul, because the distinctions are not clear. You ask Allah through the Holy Prophet or through the Imams, that's Tawassul. You ask the Holy Prophet to pray for you, that's Shafa'ah. Okay, that's intercession, that's mediation. Okay, so if I tell Brother Samir, can you please tell Brother Zuhair, that's Shafa'ah, it's not Tawassul anymore. I don't know if I'm making myself clear, okay? Now, very quickly, so the question first comes in that, can the Prophet and the Imams who have left this world, can they hear us when we call them? Okay, so there's this verse in the Quran, some use it a lot. وَمَا أَنْتَ بِمُسْمِعٍ مَنْ فِي الْقُبُورِ. O Prophet, you cannot make the dead listen. Okay, some people have tried to use this verse by saying the Prophet and the Imams cannot listen in the next world. None of the Shia scholars, none. I tried looking, none in my knowledge. None of the Shias believe about this. They all believe that the dead can hear. Are we clear? Okay? And how do they explain this verse? Look at this verse. This verse is beautiful. It's in a context of mushrikeen. Notice it says that Inna Allah yusmi'u man yasha. Allah makes a person, whoever He wishes, He makes him listen. Everybody can hear, yes or no? Me and you all can hear. So why does it say that Allah makes the person He wills to listen, He will make him listen? Here, our scholars, all of our scholars believe, unanimously they believe that. So for example here, this is Majma' al-Bayan again. أي إنك لا تقدر أن تنفع الكفار بإسمائك إياه. Okay? It's because they believe that the kuffar were not ready to listen to the Prophet. Allah is comparing the mushrikeen and the kuffar to the dead. Are we clear? Okay? So man fil qubur here doesn't mean that those who are in the grave. No. It's a metaphor for these disbelievers who are not ready to listen. Are we clear? Okay? So calling out on the dead, they can hear out. So you can tell, oh Prophet, pray for me. If you believe in this. Yes, there's some who don't believe in it. It's their opinion. We respect their opinion. But none of the Shia scholars believe in this. Now, the only challenge we have, and please listen this carefully and I finish my talk. We have two challenges in regards to this issue. I'm talking about Shafa'ah. It's not Tawassul. Are we clear? Yeah? We're not talking about Tawassul. We're talking about Shafa'ah. The first challenge we have is this. Do we have authentic narrations from the Holy Prophet and the Imams teaching their companions to use this method of dua. Are you getting me? So the Imam taught his companion that you go to the grave or you sit in the mosque and say, Ya Muhammad, give me this. I'm talking about Shi'i sources, not Sunni sources. I'm talking about Shi'i sources. And we have to have authentic narrations, okay, or authentic du'as. Don't tell me that, for example, we have dua tawassul. Dua tawassul is not authentic, my dear brothers and sisters. Tawassul is allowed, but dua tawassul is not authentic. So, inna natawajjahu ilayka, that is not there because it's not. Let's provide authentic references, then we can prove this. Okay, number one. And number two, is Shafa'ah, intercession, valid in this world, barzakh, or it's valid for the hereafter? I hope I'm making myself clear. This is the final point. I'm sorry for the delay. Intercession, Shafa'ah, is it valid in this dunya and the barzakh, or it's only valid on the day of judgment? Are you getting me? So if it becomes valid only on the day of judgment, that if I tell the Holy Prophet, pray for me, he will not pray for me because the Shafa'ah is on the day of judgment. But if you believe that intercession can be done in this dunya and in the barzakh, then yes, you can tell the Prophet, please Prophet, pray for me, and he prays for you. Do you get me? Now here we have two opinions. One is Allama Tabatabai in his Al-Mizan. Okay? Al-Mizan, Allama Tabatabai believes that intercession shall happen at the last stage of. Do you see that? So intercession will happen during the last moments on the day of judgment. Not earlier than that. Not even in barzakh. Are we clear? So Shafa'ah then doesn't play a role at all, because this Shafa'ah which the Prophet and the Imams will do, will be on the day of judgment. Ayatollah Makarim says no. In his Payam Quran, he says intercession has a broad meaning. It includes all the three realms. It includes the dunya, it includes the barzakh, it includes the akhir. Okay? Yes, the specific meaning will be in akhirah, on the day of judgment. But intercession, shafa'ah, has a broad meaning. It includes all the realms. So notice, from Allama's opinion, you cannot tell the Prophet to ask, because shafa'ah will be on the day of judgment. But if you come to Ayatollah Makarim's opinion, he says, yes, you can ask him, because now he's allowed to do shafa'ah for you. And it will work for you out here. Are we clear? Okay? So these are the types of tawassul. In conclusion, my main message to share this discussion with you was this. My dear brothers and sisters, everybody has an opinion, as long as they share their opinion. If you notice, the scholars also differ within themselves. If the scholars differ within themselves, we don't call each other kafir or I don't know what or what. They're all Muslims. They're all our brothers. They're all our sisters. Okay? So in conclusion, let's learn to respect each other's opinions and see all these opinions. All scholars are there. Okay? And no one, I didn't quote anybody but a scholar. So which one to follow? You are right. You're totally right because you have a scholarly opinion out there. Okay? As long as we need to do further research on this also, but you have a scholarly opinion. Okay? So whichever way you want to fall, inshallah, may Allah help us to be able to get guidance, inshallah. Sorry for taking your time. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Sheikh. So we will now have an opportunity for Q&A. Some ground rules for that. Questions should be pertaining to the topic that was discussed today. Okay, we cannot go outside the topic. We will limit one question per person so that everybody gets an equal opportunity to ask. And then if we have time, will try to go one question on the gent's side, one question on the lady's side, and address them accordingly. Whoever is coming for the question, we request you to come up here. The mic cannot go too far out, so that your question can be heard by everybody. And then inshallah, let's try to maintain a good rapport and
if they want to write down also they can write. If they want to write also they can.
So with that, if anybody is okay, anybody has a question, anyone has come over here, please just. No? Ladies side. If it's okay with you, please also introduce yourself so we know who we are talking to, if you're comfortable with that.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Rashid Islam. I come from Yemen. I've been here for the last 6 years in Tanzania. And going straight to the topic, yes, I appreciated the different views of different ulama. And what I'm concerned actually is, and this is my question, that yes, I do share your opinion, Sheikh, that I've heard that there will be some disunity among the members of our Jamaat when we touch this topic of Tawassul and the authenticity or unauthenticity of the Tawassul. So I would really appreciate if this method is taught to our resident alims to secure the unity of our Aqidah going forward.
Beautiful.
Thank you very much.
Beautiful. Ahsan. Thank you.
Asad, brother, inshallah, we have noted that down and we will take that into consideration and see how we can follow through that.
So, just a quick follow up on Uncle's comment. That's something which I've also requested, and I've had several times to try to talk to the ulama also on this same issue. The purpose should be to bring unity in between the community despite the differences. If you notice, Quran clearly keeps on repeating. Now and again, Allah says that if we wished, لَجَعَلَكُمْ أُمَّةً وَاحِدًا, we would have made you one nation. Okay? But we didn't wish to make you one nation. We wanted you to be different, with different colors, with different languages, with different views, so that you can learn to appreciate each other. So one of the best ways, if I can, yes, we have to preserve our unity. I will be the last person to, if I feel that it's coming to disunity, we will have to sit down and think over. But academic discussions should be allowed also. At the same time, we should also have our unity. That's what the Hawza does also. If you notice, all the ulama have unity despite their difference. And that's what we're being told in fiqh also. That you can celebrate two Eids in one house and still be together. Why not in Aqidah also? If one alim says one thing and the second alim says the second thing, if I follow one alim and you follow a second alim, what difference does it make? I'm still following an alim. I'm not following shaitan. I'm not following jahil. Yeah? So my understanding is, let's keep it. Differences of opinion are very lively. So this statement, اختلاف أمتي رحمة, it's attributed to the Prophet. It's not a narration, but it's a beautiful statement that the differences in our community is a mercy. Yeah. So sorry, Asanto.
Any other questions? If you have questions that are maybe you're not comfortable saying it out and you want to write them down, we can combine, pick it up, and as the time allows, we can try to cover those questions as well. So just write down and maybe call us and we'll come and pick it up.
Assalamu
Alaikum salam.
presentation. My name is Istighatha. Sheikh, I'm allowed two questions.
We'll do one and then we can follow through.
You highlighted the fact that Tawassul is not Sunnah. So can you shed some more light as to, is it the issue with the content, is it because of the Istighatha or is it because of the chain of relations? And I understand chain of relations can be quite a long discussion to have, but if you
True.
can sort of have it in brief as to why but Tawassul is not regarded as authentic.
Okay. So to start with, Dua Tawassul, the first time it comes in, if I'm not mistaken, in Dala'ilul Imama in the 5th century. Okay? This narration goes on further to the 9th century. Sheikh Kafa'mi in his Baladul Amin then quotes the Dua Tawassul which we have today. The problem with Dua Tawassul is this, that there is no mention that it's from which Imam also. Okay, it's not only doesn't have a sanad, we also don't know from which Imam the Dua is. Okay, now we're reciting it is no problem. Reciting the dua, because there are two concepts in dua tawassul. There is the issue of tawassul where we say, Allahumma inni as'aluka wa atawajjahu ilayka binabiyyik. That's tawassul. Then there's the second portion of it which says, Ya Muhammad, ishfa' lana. That's shafa'ah. Now in shafa'ah, it depends. If you believe in shafa'ah to be only on the day of judgment, then that content becomes a problem. But if you believe no, shafa'ah is possible in this world, the way Ayatollah Makarim believes in, then that dua becomes also okay. Okay? Now, for me, recitation of the dua is not a problem. And none of the scholars also would say it's a problem. The problem is you can't use weak narrations or unknown narrations for your beliefs. It's very important, okay? You can't use something which is weak for your foundations. For your foundation, you need a very strong hadith, which is authentic and which is strong. So reciting dua tawassul is not a problem because it covers tawassul and it covers shafa'ah. Yes, if you don't believe in shafa'ah in here, then that becomes a problem. But if you believe in shafa'ah is allowed in here, then yes, it doesn't become a problem anymore. Okay? So the issue is not only sanad but also the content, depending on which opinion you go through.
We have another question over here. The question is from the lady side. It says, can you please elaborate more on
Shafa'ah.
Yeah, that's what the question says. I'm going to read more into it, that maybe they are trying to get that distinction between Shafa'ah and Istighatha.
Okay, inshallah, this can be a topic by itself. Shafa'ah by itself, I just touched on it to make the distinction clear. Okay, we said in Tawassul, we have three ways. Yeah? I'm asking through a means to get closer to Allah. Yeah? So Allah is always the primary target. So I say, Allahumma inni atawassalu ilayk binabiyyika, nabiyyir rahmah. Okay? This is Tawassul. Istighatha, we said, is asking direct help from the Prophet or the Imam. Shafa'ah is because the Prophet and the Imams have left this world, they have gone into the metaphysical world. Now I'm talking to the Prophet, I'm telling him that, O Prophet, can you be my mediator to ask Allah to give me this? I hope I'm making myself clear. Yeah? It's not asking Allah anymore. It's telling the Prophet, O Prophet, can you please ask for me from Allah? That means you become a mediator for me and tell God to give me children, for example, to give me knowledge, for example, to give me guidance, for example. Okay? So the Prophet or the Imam will ask on my behalf. Now here is where I mentioned, there are some scholars who believe that Shafa'ah is only on the Day of Judgment. Because if you look at the verses in the Quran, which all scholars agree that it's on the Day of Judgment. But Ayatollah Makarim broadens the meaning of Shafa'ah in intercession. He says, no, you can even have Shafa'ah in this world also. So if you believe Ayatollah Makarim's opinion, then yes, you are allowed to ask the Prophet to pray for you on his behalf. But if you believe Allama Tabatabai's opinion, then no. Then it's only Tawassul which is allowed and not Shafa'ah, because Shafa'ah will happen on the Day of Judgment. So, I hope I clarified. This uncle there. There's an uncle there. Let's give uncle first the
Oh,
chance.
sorry. I didn't see you.
Yes.
I should be the one running last.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaykum salam wa rahmatullah.
I would like to touch say just one question, just a few things here
Okay.
on what you say. You mentioned like asking those people who already left this world. But according to Quran, those who died as shaheed are alive and getting the sustenance from Allah. So, when we believe that they are alive, that's number one. Number two, you mentioned like when Hazrat Musa, when he was talking to Allah on 42, he was talking direct. But when the voices of Quran came to the Holy Prophet, it came through Jibreel. Allah didn't say directly talking to the Prophet, which means that Jibreel was used as a sila. So if it can come down through Jibreel, then it can go through the Masumin. That is what we have been believing all this time. And then you said that there is no instruction. Now, I don't know if every action is required instruction. When Ibrahim took Ismail to slaughter him, he didn't have any instruction. He just saw the dream.
Yes, that was a
No
clear,
instruction to stop him.
no clear instruction. I'm commanding you that you should slaughter him.
Because
Yes.
in Surah Maryam, I've seen the situation of the Yahya.
Yes.
Zakaria, the whole story there, when the Yahya was followed by the enemies to kill him, he ordered a tree in front of him to accommodate him, to save him. But he had no instruction.
But that's not in the Quran.
It's there in the
Yeah.
interpretation.
Yes.
This
Okay.
is what has happened. See?
True. True.
So this is what has been in my mind. Now, there's time and I'll come with more questions.
Then about 3, 4, maybe give him some time for the
Yeah, right.
Thank you.
So I have one more. We have been told that Allah is closer to us than our daily rain,
True.
and so we should ask Allah directly. But I would like to bring a common example. This room is full of signal, Wi-Fi signal, and whatever. But we can't use the Wi-Fi
Ji.
until I have a device. So with the device, I can use the Wi-Fi for communication.
True.
It's like the Masumin is like a device to do the communication. Thank you.
When you are answering, if you can repeat maybe the question
Okay.
you're elaborating, then there is clarity.
Okay. So. Okay. The first question was about martyrs being alive. The Quran says, وَلَا تَقُولُوا لِمَنْ يُقْتَلُ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتٌ بَلْ أَحْيَاءٌ وَلَكِنْ لَا تَشْعُرُونَ. This is what we normally ignore. Number one, the Quran says they are alive, but you cannot comprehend how they are alive. وَلَكِنْ لَا تَشْعُرُونَ. This is Surah Baqarah 154. Number one. Number two, Hayat, being alive, mentioned in the methodology. Please, that's why I mentioned the methodology. Being alive cannot be compared to being alive here. If we have to ask the Prophet or the Imams, we need to have an instruction. Otherwise, we will be getting into the common issue which the Quran keeps on repeating, iftira Allah. You will ascribe lies to Allah that God told you to do so when there's no instruction from God to do so. And that is why I kept on repeating the methodology that you need to have a very clear instruction. Notice we just don't go pray the way we want. Can you say that, oh, I'm in a mood of today praying 7 salah? Do you do that? Praying is better, yeah? So I remember I was in Hajj once and we were going to hit the Jamarat. So the guy was so much frustrated that not only he took 21 pebbles, he took 52 pebbles. So I told him, this is Shaitan telling you to hit 52. Allah has told you to hit only 21. You don't exceed, you don't go down. You follow the instruction the way It is, and that is why you follow as Allah has told you. So we can't say because they are alive, that means we are allowed to ask them also. We need a separate instruction for that. If you want to believe they are alive and you can ask them, that's your prerogative. But I would like to see an instruction from God, or from the Prophet, or from the Imams, which we don't have. If we have the instruction, then yes, then we allow it. Okay, number one. Number two, I again repeated, you repeated the same question, that Allah used the angel as a wasila to send wahi, while at the time of Prophet Musa he didn't. What Allah does is not my job. What Allah does is His duty. We made it very clear what He does, it's His duty. If He wants to put me into hell, even if I don't deserve it, He can put me into hell. But that doesn't mean that somebody else is also allowed to do the same thing. So what Allah does is His duty. He is the Lord of the universe. He is allowed to do whatever He wishes. Yeah, I have to have a separate instruction that Baba, use them, no problem. Okay, so you use them as a device or whatever you want to say. That Yahya asking, as I mentioned, it's not there in the Quran. It's maybe an interpretation, you have seen it, but we haven't seen any authentic narrations for that. Imams a device? Yes, I proved it that you can ask through the Holy Prophet and the Imams. Now, if you believe in Shafa'ah, also you can ask the Imam to ask for you to Allah. That's also allowed. So they are being a device for you to be able to connect to God. But keep this in mind, I kept on repeating, my dear brothers and sisters, that in the Quran, we are told that God is the most closest to us. And not only prophets, He's closest to everybody. And that is what I kept on repeating now and again, that I kept on repeating this statement of Imam Ali alayhi salam. Here. How will you understand this hadith of Imam Ali? That you don't need a mediator between you and Allah. So the one who wants to go to Allah through a mediator, yes, is allowed to go through. Nobody denies it. But let's not negate the point that God is very close to us. God loves us more than the Holy Prophet and the Imams. Wallahi, Allah loves us more than the Prophet and the Imams. We are to talk to Him, وَأَخْلُوا. That is why Imam Sajjad says, وَأَخْلُوا بِهِ مِنْ حَيْثُ شِئْتُ. Whenever I want to secretly converse with Him, I talk to Him. Whenever I wish. Okay? So both ways are possible. You want to take the Imams as device, no problem. Take them as a device. But let's not negate the other portion that you're allowed to even talk to God directly. Yeah? I hope I answered the questions. Yes.
There's another question over here. I think you already answered this, but I'll just take it out loud.
Gee.
There's a 12th Imam problem in doing Tawassul. So I think Sheikh already answered the question, so we will not be going
The
to
12th
that.
Imam?
Is the 12th Imam a problem in doing Tawassul?
No, not at all, not at all. He's from the Ahlul Bayt, so you're allowed to do tawassul through him, no problem.
Second part of it, I just want to go on the record over here because the note says something along the lines of, as being a youth, I get confused because I saw a video on Islam. So I'm going to go on the record over here. This program has nothing to do with Islam, so we will not be covering or discussing anything to do with any other scholar might be saying or done anything like that. The second question over here is, well, let me give an opportunity to the floor first.
So he was.
Brother, I think you had a question.
True.
When we are talking about Istighatha in Quran 35, 14,
Yes.
context talks about Nunillah.
Yes.
We have never said that Istighatha is Nunillah.
True.
Like Abdullah Khoy in his fatwa
True.
Istighatha is
True.
So, should we do Istighatha because who has conversation?
So allow me to discuss istighatha at a future. That I know I brought it up. I was not supposed to bring it up. I just brought it up so that you are now aware of my methodology, because I will inshallah discuss it in the future. Okay, today was the issue of tawassul. We will inshallah discuss istighatha and inshallah get into, is istighatha allowed, not allowed, what are the different opinions within the scholars. We will also again get into all that inshallah when the time comes. Yeah.
So, you said that we can be Tawassul Imam Zaman.
Yes.
So, when you refer to Imam Zaman in your lecture, you refer to him as Mahdi.
Yes.
So, is this Mahdi alive?
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Sheikh, I have another question here.
Yes.
Since the verse clearly says, and I think you shared this verse here, if you call upon them besides Allah, they cannot hear you, and if they hear, they cannot respond.
Yes.
Then the question was, so how can the Prophet, Imams hear so many people at the same time and make thousands of du'as on behalf of those who invoke them?
Absolutely. That's the issue we need to sort out. Do you get the question? The question is that can we ask the Prophet, if million people are asking the Prophet at the same time, can he hear or not? And this is where we go into evidences now and then start proving that can they hear or not. So what I did was I just proved that the dead can hear. Now, when we go into specifics now, and inshallah, that was not my topic today. Inshallah, when we pick up Shafa'ah, I will discuss it in detail also. That what are the proofs we have for all these things? What are the different opinions within the scholars on this issue? But yes, this is one of the issue which comes in, that can the Prophet or the Imam listen to everybody when they call him or no? And this also touches with the issue of ilmul ghaib also. Do they have the hidden knowledge or not? So we'll have to even touch on the hidden knowledge issue also. Yeah. So you notice it's a lot connected. If I start talking about it today, then the discussion will not get connected nicely. We need to put the puzzles nicely so that we come to a proper conclusion. Sawa. We have 3 minutes. Yeah. Ji. Ji, ji. Salam.
मैं उर्दू में बात कर रहा हूँ।
जी 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 जी।
अभी जो शेख ने लेक्चर दिया है, पहले तो मैं शुक्रगुजार हूँ कि जो आपने कुछ चीज़ें बड़ी क्लियर की हैं। पहले तो एक जो मशहूर है कि शेख जो है वो तवस्सुल के कायल नहीं है। ये आज सुना है कि वो पूरे तवस्सुल में बिलीव करते हैं। 12वें इमाम ज़मान अल्लाह ताला का वजूद भी साबित है। और 2-3 बातें मुझे गुजारिश करनी है। एक जो आपका वो एग्जाम्पल था, मैं उससे एग्री नहीं हूँ कि जो आपने फरमाया कि नहीं कि जो इस वक्त इस दुनिया में नहीं है, क्या उनसे कोई सवाल किया जा सकता है कि वो आपके लिए पानी लेके आए? डेफिनेटली सब के सब इंसान बराबर नहीं है। अभी बुजुर्गवार ने जो आयत पढ़ी है, उस आयत को अगर आप दूसरी आयत के साथ में मिलाएं तो दोनों आयत में वसल्लम का वला तकुल लिमन युक्तल फी सबिलिल्लाह अम्वात, फिर आखिर का वला कि ला तशउरून। लेकिन दूसरी आयत है जिसमें खुदावंद आलम ने इरशाद फरमाया वला तहसबन्नल्लज़ीना कुतिलू फी सबिलिल्लाह अम्वाता बल अहयाउन इंद रब्बिहिम युरज़क़ून। तो जहाँ तक बात हमारी है, शायद हम उस दुनिया में जाके कुछ मदद नहीं कर सकते, लेकिन जहाँ बात अहले बैत अलैहिस्सलाम की है, कभी भी अहले बैत अतार हम अपने ऊपर प्रयास नहीं कर सकते। अहले बैत अतार उनकी जिंदगी इस दुनिया की, उनकी जिंदगी बरज़ख की दुनिया की जिंदगी जो है, अहले बैत अतार को अल्लाह ने वही पावर दिया है जो इस दुनिया में दिया है। उनके पास वो पावर है, अलबत्ता वो पावर उनका दिया हुआ उनका खुद का नहीं है, एक जाती है, एक अकाई है। ये पावर भी उनको अल्लाह ने ही दिया है। जिस तरह वो दुनिया में मदद कर सकते हैं, इसी तरह वो आखिरत में भी मदद कर सकते हैं। इसके अलावा मसलन जो दुआए तवस्सुल के हवाले से बात
سند کے اعتبار سے بات آتی ہے. پہلی بات تو دعائے توسل سے آپ نے کلیئر کیا ہے کہ واقعہ اس میں کوئی آپ توسل میں بلیو کرتے ہیں اور یہ پروپیگنڈا بھی. میری گزارش بھی ہے سب سے جو بیٹھے ہیں، دیکھیں ہر بات سنی ہوئی حق نہیں. آپ پہلے تحقیق کریں، کوئی بھی بات کرتا ہے تو اس کو سنیں. زیادہ یہ پورے شہر میں بات چل رہی ہے کہ شیخ کامو جو ہے وہ توسل کے اگینسٹ ہے. زیادہ توسل تو انہوں نے کھلنے کا مانا کہ نہیں توسل ہے. دعا کی سند کے بارے میں دیکھیے، جہاں آپ نے جو شروع میں ایک بحث کی ہے کہ کیوں آخر یہ بات پبلک میں کی جائے. ٹائم لمٹ کریں
نہیں.
سوال ہے کہ کیوں آخر یہ بات پبلک میں کی جائے. اور آپ نے علامہ آیت اللہ بروجردی رحمۃ اللہ تعالی علیہ اور آپ نے علامہ طباطبائی کا جو ایگزامپل پیش کیا ہے صحیح ہے. قرآن کا ایگزامپل آپ نے دیا ہے، نہج البلاغہ کا آپ نے اپنے ایگزامپل دیا ہے. یقین قرآن اللہ کا کلام ہے. وہ اللہ نے کہا ہدی للناس، نہج البلاغہ ہدی للناس ہے، مگر میرا اور آپ کا قول جو ہدی للناس نہیں ہے. ہمارا بیان کرنے کا طریقہ، ہمارا جو انڈرسٹینڈنگ کا طریقہ ہے، وہ ساری قوم کی جو انڈرسٹینڈنگ ہے وہ ڈفرینٹ ہے. جب اہل بیت کے اطہار کو بیان کرنے کا طریقہ ہے، ان کے الفاظ ہیں. یقیناً نہج البلاغہ ڈیفیکلٹ کتاب ہے. قرآن مجید نے صاف کا تبیان لکل شیء. بہرحال اسی لیے قرآن مجید کی ایک قراءت ہے، ایک تدبر ہے، ایک تفکر ہے، اس کے اسٹیجز ہیں. اسی لیے بہرحال جو بات حوضے کی ہے وہ حوضے میں یہ اگر کی جائے، اور صحیح بات ہے پبلک کو اس کے لیے مثلا پہلے بزرگان ایک لمیٹیڈ افراد کے درمیان بحث کرتے تھے، سیکریٹ نہیں کرتے تھے. مثلا ہم آپ کے سامنے ایک دن بیٹھے تھے میٹنگ میں، وہاں پہ ایک بات آئی تھی اگر پبلک میں یہ سب باتیں کرنی ہے تو پھر کیوں ایسی باتیں کہ ایک کلپ تھا، نام تو نہیں لیتا ہوں، کہ 7 مہینے پہلے وہ کلپ تیار کی گئی امام زمانہ اجل اللہ تعالیٰ برشت وجود کے انتقال پر. 7 مہینے کے بعد وہ اچانک باہر نکلی ہے، بائی پرپز نہیں نکلی. البتہ اس میں کہا کہ وہ خیانت کی ہے. جو گروپ کے لوگ ہیں، مجھے نہ گروپ کے نام سے مطلب ہے اور نہ ہی گروپ والا بات سے مطلب ہے، کہا وہ خیانت کی گئی ہے. نہیں، اگر یہی بات ہے، اگر جو گروپ جو ہے ایسی بات کر رہے ہیں تو کیوں پبلک میں آ کے بات نہیں کرتے؟ کیوں سیکریٹلی 7 مہینے تک ایک کلپ کو غلط بنا کر چھپایا جاتا ہے؟ برحال گزارش ہے کہ ہم اگر اس گروپ میں ہیں تو ڈیفینڈ کرنا ہماری ذمہ داری ہے. شریعت ہم سب کے لیے ہے، اسلام ہم سب کے لیے ہے. اگر واقعہ جیسے آپ نے ابھی کلیئر سب کے سامنے بیان فرمایا ہے، معاف کیجیے میں آپ کی عزت کرتا ہوں، احترام کرتا ہوں، اور یہ میرے لہجہ میں رہا ہے، آپ کی عزت نہیں ہے، لیکن درد دل ہے جو میں گزارش کرنا چاہتا ہوں. میں بھی دارالسلام میں رہتا ہوں جیسے آپ رہتے ہیں. آج بچوں کے درمیان جو ڈاؤٹ کریٹ کیے جا رہے ہیں، ہم سب کی رسپانسبلٹی ہے کہ مثلا میں 2 لفظ جانتا ہوں تو مجھے 2 لفظ کا جواب دینا پڑے گا. اگر میں اس گروپ میں ہوں اور خاموش ہوں تو یہ شریعت کے ساتھ ظلم ہے. جیسے ابھی آپ نے مثلا آیت اللہ بروجردی نے علامہ طباطبائی سوال کیا، علامہ طباطبائی نے جواب دیا ریزن کے ساتھ میں. اسی طرح اگر میں کسی گروپ میں ہوں اور وہاں آئمہ کے خلاف جس کو میں بلیو کرتا ہوں اور جواب دے سکتا ہوں، تو میری ذمہ داری ہے کہ اس کا جواب دیا جائے تاکہ وہ شر نہ پھیلائے. بہرحال پہلی بات تو یہی تھی کہ اہل بیت اطہار علیہ السلام کا اسٹیٹس جو ہے وہ ہماری طرح نہیں، لا یقاس بنا نہج البلاغہ میں. دوسری بات، ہر بات کو مثلا میرے پاس خود نہج البلاغہ کا ایک قول جو حکمت نمبر 374 نہج البلاغہ، مولا کائنات نے فرمایا لا تقل ما لا تعلم، جو بات آپ نہیں جانتے نہیں کہو. اس کے بعد کا جو سینٹینس ہے وہ بہت قیمتی ہے، بل لا تقل کل ما تعلم، بلکہ ہر بات جو جانتے وہ بھی نہیں کہو. اس لیے کہ عربی زبان میں اور نہج البلاغہ میں قرآن میں 2 لفظ ہیں، ایک ہے صدق، ایک ہے ثواب. اور جب مولا کائنات نے متقین کے صفات پیش کرے نہج البلاغہ میں کہا وَمَنْطِقُهُمُ الصَّوَابُ، یہ نہیں کہا وَمَنْطِقُهُمُ الصِّدْقُ. صدق الگ ہے، ثواب الگ ہے. صدق یعنی ہر سچی بات، لیکن ثواب کا مطلب ہے سچی بھی ہو اور موقع اور حالات کے اعتبار سے مناسب بھی ہو. لہٰذا آج آیا ہر سچی بات کو ہم کہہ سکتے ہیں؟ ہمارے جوان چاہے بے دین ہو جائے. لہٰذا جتنے بھی اس گروپ میں جو جس گروپ میں کلپ وغیرہ بن رہی ہے، میری گزارش ہے آپ سب کی ذمہ داری ہے، شرعی اعتبار سے ذمہ داری ہے اگر فساد پھیل رہا ہے. لہٰذا بزرگوار ماشاء اللہ شیخ کاموں نے جو آج کل توسل کے حوالے سے واقعاً انہوں نے مثلا نظریہ پیش کیا. اچھا دوسری بات یہ توسل میں حوالے کے اعتبار سے سند ٹھیک ہے، وہ بہت زیادہ ایتھینٹک جو روایت ہے نہیں ہے، لیکن علامہ مجلسی نے باغوی نے اس کو نقل کیا ہے. البتہ ایک چیز اور بھی ہے، ہمارے علماء نے ایک بحث کی ہے، ایک روایات ہوتی ہے متواترہ، ایک روایات ہوتی ہے احاد. البتہ وہ یہاں بحث کرنے کی نہیں ہے بات، وہ جب ہم ساتھ میں بیٹھے ہیں تو کر سکتے ہیں. لیکن سوال ہے آیا ہر جگہ پہ روایت کا اتھینٹک ہونا ضروری ہے؟ جہاں واجبات کی بات ہے، جہاں محرمات کی بات ہے، جتنے بھی علماء اصول ہیں انہوں نے کہا محرمات اور واجبات کی حد تک جو ہے روایات راوی اس کے بارے میں بہت اتھینٹک ہونا چاہیے. لیکن جہاں بات مستحبات کی ہے، جہاں بات مکروہات کی ہے، وہاں پر خبر متواتر کی ضرورت نہیں ہے.